Welcome to Hawg Huddle, your weekly opinion-based podcast dedicated to all things Razorbacks. From the highs and lows on the field and court to the biggest stories off of it, we've got you covered. Got a question or topic you want us to tackle? Email us or tweet us your thoughts, and we'll bring them into the huddle. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the latest. This is Hawg Huddle. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of Hawg Huddle. I'm your host, Jesse Thurman. This week, we're going to do a little bit on men's basketball team from the past week, talk about that. Then we're going to look at some updates in the transfer portal. I am not going to dive into everything in the transfer portal. We would be here for days with everything that's happened in the past week. And then we'll cap off the evening with my thoughts on the state of the Razorback football program. All right, so let's jump into men's basketball. We'll start off with Tuesday night. It was a thrilling game in the mecca of basketball, Madison Square Garden, where Coach John Calipari and your Razorbacks picked up their first ranked win of the season against a tough Michigan team. They had two 7-footers, and one of them played like he was a 6'2" point guard, but he was 7 foot. It was insane. Probably won't match up with anybody like that the rest of the season, but Michigan will be a thorn in somebody's side before the end of the season. They had a real good ball club. This game had huge leads disintegrate into thin air for both teams. Wolverines led by as many as 15 in the first half before the Razorbacks came roaring back. And then the Hogs led by 18 in the second half before playing with their food. And as Coach Calipari said after the win Saturday at UCA, they got a little arrogant. But when the final horn sounded after a missed shot by Michigan guard Roddy Gale Jr., the Hogs emerged the victors, 89-87. Adu Thero was suffering from illness and only played 22 minutes this game, but still had 13 points. But other Hogs on the floor proved to everyone that they had multiple contributors on this team, with Jonas Adu, Trevin Brazil, Boogie Flan, and DJ Wagner all having big nights in Madison Square Garden. The standout player of the game to me was Trevin Brazil. He had 6 boards, 1 assist, 3 steals, and 15 points. But TB4 played like everybody has expected him to be able to play. He brought a lot of energy, brought a lot of hustle, had a nice steal and dunk. And a lot of people I've seen still want to make the comments, oh, he's worried about his hair color, he's worried about his nails. I don't care what the man looks like. If he gets out there and plays ball like that, he can put a pink star on his forehead. It's not going to bother me one bit. Whatever he wants to do with his appearance, that's his business. But I'm glad to see him adapting under Coach Cal and really developing into the player that so many Hog fans have thought he should be the past few years. Just a wonderful performance by TB4 all around. And it happened within the flow of the game. He didn't jump out and make boneheaded plays or try to create something that wasn't there. He played within the flow of the game, contributed big time, and helped lead the Hogs to a victory that they very, very much needed against a ranked opponent. DJ Wagner was on fire from 3 in the second half. And Boogie was Boogie, and he showed out in front of his hometown. I think they said on the broadcast he had something like 100 friends and family, former teammates, former coaches at the game. Coder Wilkerson was doing his post-game reaction, and he said there was a huge pop. He looked up to see that it was Boogie Flan coming out to visit with all his guests at the game. So really happy for the freshman, happy he was able to get out there, show out in front of his home crowd, show what he's able to do, and on a national stage at that. He keeps improving. The rate he's improving, definite lottery pick, and good things are going to happen with Boogie Fland on the floor. All right, let's jump ahead to Saturday down in North Little Rock at Simmons Bank Arena. Your Razorbacks handled the UCA Bears from the tip to the horn without any trouble, winning 82-57. Adu Theros set the game out, still suffering from illness. But the front court of Jonas Adu and Trevin Brazil is starting to gel, and I'm really looking forward to see what these guys can do as we approach conference play. Just excellent play by both of them. Jonas Adu's still not 100%, but he's getting there. Trevin Brazil had another good game, playing like the player he should be. Very happy to see that. There's not a lot to break down in this game. They did what they were supposed to do against a team they were supposed to beat that badly. One note I will point out from this game, and I'm sure Coach Cal will be having a full lecture in the film room about this, but it shouldn't need to be said to college players, don't foul the three-point shooter. I can think of 3 or 4 instances it happened in this game. Jumping out at the shooter instead of jumping up or doing a blow-by. You do something like that against a high-quality opponent like Tennessee, like Auburn, like Kentucky, anybody in the SEC pretty much, and that's a surefire way to lose close games. So the Hogs got a couple more games before Christmas break, and then they kick off conference play on the road at number 1 Tennessee. We'll see if Tennessee is still number 1 when they go to Thompson Bowling. But it's going to be SEC play is going to be something else this year. I saw a stat on Inside Arkansas up until LSU's loss Saturday, I believe it was, the SEC had won 70 straight games in their non-conference schedule. So, like Calipari said, the SEC is brutal this year. I don't even think it's going to be close as to who the top basketball conference in the country is. But let's wrap it up for football, and we'll go ahead and we'll jump over into the transfer portal. And I will try not to be too terribly long-winded in this segment, but there's a lot to unpack. I'm just going to try to hit some high notes in it. All right. First, let me say in the transfer portal, if you're wanting each and every little update, you need to be following John Neighbors, Curtis Wilkerson, and Andrew Ellis over at Inside Arkansas. They're going live with every big pop in the portal or releasing a short pre-recorded video for the announcement. They have a lot more intel on each of the players. That is their 9 to 5. That is their life. This is a hobby for me. I've got a 9 to 5. I just do this for fun, so I am not going to be as detailed as some other ones. Not trying to compete with them. Just throwing it out there. If you really want more in-depth, highly recommend John Neighbors and crew, and also Trey Biddy and crew. But let's go ahead and jump into my points I have here. The main point I want to touch on is the mass exodus. It got worse when the portal opened. I was not expecting that. But we have had far more players leave than we have gotten in. It's also been shown, unfortunately, I missed big time on where some players were going. I called Jalen Braxton to LSU. Wrong. He went to Ole Miss. I said Luke Has to Oklahoma or Georgia. He went to Ole Miss. The one I did get right, Patrick Kudus, went to Ole Miss. So that just kind of cements us as the farm team for the Ole Miss Rebels, it seems like. We've lost 3 starting players this year. We lost Pooh Paul last year. Tampering, agents, mole inside the program, who knows? All that matters is all these players are no longer here. They've went to Ole Miss, and just seems like our staff isn't doing enough to stop things like this. There again, not behind the scenes, don't know what's going on. Could be very wrong about that. But I would like to see more from our staff when it comes to keeping our players. We'll talk a little bit about Pittman's interview here in a few minutes. Another starting Razorback that is committed to an SEC school, Nico Davier, is heading to Mississippi as well, but he is committed to old Cowbell U. That one doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but the young man's made his decision. So respect it, don't respect it. It doesn't really matter to me what you do. I'm just telling you what happened. Nico Davier is going to be a Bulldog. And unfortunately, Kudus, Has, and Braxton will all be Black Bear, Rebel, Land Sharks, whatever they want to call themselves this week. Now we'll get to a little better news with the portal. We do have some incoming portal transfers. Oklahoma Sooner cornerback Connie Walker. I believe I'm saying that right. If not, I apologize to Mr. Walker. He will be coming in 2024. He recorded 24 tackles and an interception. So, not big numbers, but he did see SEC playing time at Oklahoma. That'll be good to have a little bit of SEC experience in our backfield. Also committing to the Hogs, coming all the way from Oregon, is offensive tackle Jaquan McRoy. This young man didn't really play, doesn't have a lot of stats. He was a highly touted 3 or 4 star, depending on which ranking system you look at coming out of high school. But the one thing that I really like about him is he's coming onto campus standing 6'8", weighing 370 pounds. This is a mountain of a man to be at offensive tackle. Hopefully, Coach Mateos and Coach Pittman can coach his kid up, and he'll be a contributing factor on the offensive line. But for the love of all things Razorbacks, play him at tackle. Play him at his position. Every year, we're moving a tackle to a guard to a tackle, someone to center that's never played center. You're supposed to be the best offensive line coach in the country. And yes, I understand Coach Pittman is the head coach now. He's no longer the offensive line coach. But the time he spent in the fall with Mateos, we need to recruit and play players at their position. We've had far too many O-linemen come in here, get shuffled, and they don't live up to their height. Maybe the reason they're not living up to their height is because they're playing a position that they haven't played. Let them play their natural position they've been playing since junior high. That's what they've been doing. That's what they have dedicated their life to learning and perfecting. Play them in their position. They might meet the height. But I'm just a fan. I'm not a coach. I don't know. It just seems like something that makes sense to me is play the position that you recruited them as. Another good portal grab, considering we lost the Metcalf brothers this week, is top-rated JUCO cornerback Keyshawn Davila. If his talent transfers to the SEC stage the way it did in JUCO, that one might be a key piece next year. Not having Braxton at cornerback this year, having to shuffle players at cornerback, putting Hudson Clark. I love Hudson Clark, but the guy's not fast enough to play corner in the SEC. He is more of a safety. Talked about this. Every Razorback podcast you can imagine has probably talked about this. But having a corner come in, granted, there's no guarantee JUCO talent is going to transfer to the SEC. And I understand that. I'm sure the coaches do too. But this kid was a standout in the junior college ranks, and he is the number 1 JUCO in the portal at cornerback. So hopefully we bring him in. We don't have a revolving door at cornerback like we did, and this guy can play big dividends for Coach T. Will and his staff. Just as I was doing my show prep and kind of getting everything laid out for the podcast this afternoon, came across Twitter that Fresno State wide receiver Raylan Sharp has committed to the Razorbacks. Back in 2023, he was an FCS All-American at Missouri State. He has played for Petrino and Coach Fouch, so there's some familiarity there. So I'm glad we got someone coming in who knows the tendencies and the expectations of our coaching staff. This guy's small, though. He's only 5'9". Hearing that he could be an Isaiah Satania type player. He's not going to be Andrew Armstrong by any means. There's no way. He doesn't have the size. But if we can have a quick little shifty back, watched his highlight videos, a lot of his highlight videos, he's making the cuts. Expecting good things out of him next year. Now we just need about 5 or 6 more wide receivers because between transfer portal and players running out of eligibility, we don't have much left in the wide receiving core. So while I'm glad we have some of these players coming in, we have yet, as of this recording, signed anyone that really gives me hope for a better product on the field versus this past season. I haven't seen a Xavier Sori signing. I haven't seen a Drew Sanders signing or a Landon Jackson transfer coming in. Someone like that, just a big difference maker. Have not seen any of those sign yet. It's still early, but I would like to see a big name with SEC experience or even Big Ten experience. Big Ten's a good brand of football. Somebody who's got some playing experience and looking to further their career and play against the best of the best in the SEC. Need somebody like that to come in and make an immediate impact. The transfer portal is going to continue to be the focus of all football fans as we approach the bowl game on December 27th in Memphis. Speaking of the bowl game on December 27th, that's going to roll me right into my take on the state of the program. What is the University of Arkansas doing? This may have been corrected by now. I hadn't found anything that says otherwise on social media or on the internet yet. I've seen a post. The University of Arkansas is charging $100 for student tickets to the bowl game. Texas Tech's only charging $25. They have less transfers. I did hear their starting quarterback's going to be out, and they have a little further to go. But $100 to watch depth at the Liberty Bowl, I don't expect to win in this bowl game. I'll just be completely honest right here off the top. You have Armstrong is going to set out to protect his NFL draft stock. I have not heard for sure, but I am assuming Landon Jackson is going to set out to protect his NFL draft stock. Jaquindon Jackson has declared for the draft. Don't expect to see him play. The rash of transfers, your superstars sitting out to protect their NFL stock, and I have nothing against them for that. Let me just be clear there. The money they're going to make in the NFL, even if they are second team, is far beyond what they're ever going to get paid in NIL at the University of Arkansas. It sets them up to do some great things in their life, and I wish them all the best. I appreciate them finishing out their college career with the Razorbacks. But speaking of NIL and money, let's talk about Coach Pittman. He finally spoke to the media this week, and he assured us multiple times in his press conference that they have money. He said it. I couldn't even tell you how many times, but all the clips I listened to, we've got money. We've got money. He just doesn't want to spend it on the players that are hitting the portal. Some of these guys, he said, came in asking for 4 and 5 times what they valued them at. I don't know what they were valued at. I don't know what they were asking. Obviously, Ole Miss thinks they're worth what they were asking because that's where they're at. But Coach Pittman says that he thinks they're going to get better players for less money out of the portal. And to me, this just cements his legacy as the blue light special of SEC coaches. Got to be careful what you say, coach. It's going to be used against you in the court of public opinion. And to say we're going to get better players when Patrick Kudus was literally the number one tackle in the portal, you're not going to get better when he's the best there is in the portal. No, he's not the best there is in the nation, but those players aren't leaving their schools. And brings me to another point that Coach Pittman brought up in his presser. He was asked about hiring a GM for the football program. All but 2 SEC schools have a GM now, I believe it is. I don't know who the other one is without one. Could be Vanderbilt, but I'm not positive on that. But anyways, Coach Pittman was asked about hiring a GM. And he responded by saying something along the lines of, we have talked about it, but we don't think we need one. But if we do hire a GM, it'll be in April. Now, let me give you my 2 cents on this. A GM is going to handle the business aspect of the program. They're going to handle evaluating players' value for NIL. They're also going to evaluate players in the portal and their value versus what they're asking. Something that our coaching staff has struggled at because we keep losing top tier players because we don't have the NIL money, or this year we don't want to give them the NIL money because we think we can do better for cheaper. Hence, blue light special of SEC coaches, Sam Pittman. GM would take this off the coach's plate and be able to better plan for portal season. You would have your GM and their team letting the coaches know, hey, this is what we need. This is what we think these guys are worth. If we can get them in this range, we keep them. If not, we know that this, and this is going to hit the portal. The agents are out there shopping these kids. It's not tampering when the agents are shopping them and you just happen to get a DM from an agent and you answer their hypothetical. Hypothetically, Jesse's going to be hitting the transfer portal. If he happened to be in the portal, what are you going to pay him to come play for your team? Coach Pittman's offering me $100,000 to stay at Arkansas, but I've been told Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian, and Brian Kelly all think I'm worth at least $250. Guess what? Doesn't matter how much you love the Hogs. That's life-changing money. They're going to follow the money, and I don't blame them one bit. Arkansas's got to learn to be competitive and learn to manage their money correctly. Back again, talked about it last week. I'm going to talk about it more this week. Oh, we've got revenue sharing. We got plenty of money. So does everyone else. You're still way behind. Or you're still mismanaging on a kindergarten level versus people like Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Brian Kelly, Kirby Smart, managing their NIL at a PhD level. Now, as for this bowl game, talked about it earlier, I don't think we're going to win. I don't want Hog fans to get their hopes up. But what team is going to take the field in Memphis? Automatically, all your portal guys will not be on the field. And you've got about 8 or 9 starters in there. You got 3 more starters that are going to be protecting themselves for the NFL. So over 50% of your starters will not be playing in the bowl game. Considering pretty much your entire offensive line, well, I say pretty much, your inside 3 guys have left. You're left with the tackles. Carmona did a great job this year. He can still be better. I would like to see some improvement, but I hope to see him come back. Hope to see him develop some. Blackstock did not have the year that was expected of him. The SEC was too much for him, unfortunately. So you got to think, we're going to have a different offensive line. Receiver-wise, Tesla should be out there. Jordan Anthony, C.J. Brown. Might get to see some Monte Harrison. Tight end, Maybe Maddox Lassiter moves back to tight end from fullback. Otherwise, you've got Paskey, and that's about it. Going to be struggling big time at tight end. Defense, you've got the depth. It's not good depth, and Texas Tech was no joke down the stretch. They played some good games, won some good games, and just by looking, I hate to say it, but Texas Tech's the better team, especially when you consider roster availability at the end of the day. I want to know that some of these guys stepping in here and playing in this bowl game can be contributors on next year's team. But the fact that we never really saw them this year when we were struggling tells me that the coaching staff does not have faith in them being SEC caliber players or depth. So who knows what happens 2 days after Christmas in Memphis. It's always a wild bowl game. We'll tune in. We'll cheer on the Hogs. And then I'm sure I'll have a lot to say about it on that podcast the following Sunday. As I'm getting ready to wrap up here, glanced over at Twitter, and we have a final for women's basketball from Bud Walton. Lady Razorbacks fall to the Texas Tech Red Raiders 75-72. From all the updates I've seen throughout, close game all the way through. Girls played hard. Don't know what Texas Tech's schedule has looked like, but I know they are going in, and they're now a 10-2 team. Arkansas falls to 6-6. So it is good to see them play competitively with another Power 4 school with a winning record. Always good to see that. But on that note, I've bounced off the walls and rambled enough for this episode. I appreciate everyone listening in. Anything you want to talk about, or you think I'm overreacting to, or you just think I'm flat out wrong, hit us up on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days. Comment on a TikTok video. DMs are open. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you want to hear about. And if you make a valid point, even if I don't agree with it, I'll throw it in the show and we'll talk about your viewpoint versus mine and your points versus mine. Love to have a conversation with you about some things if you don't fully agree with me. But thank you again for listening in. I'll be back next Sunday with more from Hawg Huddle. Have a great week, everyone. Appreciate you. Let me take this opportunity to say thank you for listening to Hawg Huddle this week. Make sure and subscribe on your favorite podcast provider. Tell your friends and follow us on socials. We're on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.